Hello, everyone. It's Michele Maher here, and I'm joined with Dave Rogers today. Thank you so much, Dave, for giving me your time to talk about what we're dealing with, what we've been going through this year of 2020, and keeping a positive mindset while pivoting in your life and your business. So thank you, Dave. If you want to give us a few words about who you are and what you're all about.
Thank you, Michelle. And it is great to have an opportunity to share with you today. We've been on this journey the last few months of getting together and having little conversations. And I believe that that's been a nice part of our scheduling and planning. My name is Dave Rogers, David Michael Rogers, Coach Dave. These are all different personas that I've played with over the last 10 years. Born and bred in Mississauga, Ontario, yet in 1986 had a dream, a vision, a desire to go work abroad, become an international banker, financier, which I did for, believe it or not, went for a couple of years and spent 33 years abroad. And just came back to Canada in the last couple of years and have been an elderly caregiver, which is very different than the 20-something-year-old guy who wanted to take on the world. Have really been able to, in the last 2 years, even before the COVID experiences, to find ways to bring more kindness, particularly self-kindness, into my life. Because the fact is that as a 20-year-old, I was incredibly hard on myself, had a brutal self-dialogue that was so bombastic. It flowed over to people that I worked with, yet because I was in the finance industry, we sort of got a pass to be an ass. And that was a big part of my 20s. Yet, guess what? Just like what you've learned about karma, what comes around goes around. And so for the last couple of years, I've been looking to clean up some of that karma that maybe I had beaten up and bullied and pissed on people. And that's one of the things that I'm happy to talk about these days, because I feel that I'm probably not the only one who's done some things that they have some type of regret or some type of learning and some type of new discovery from. And that's been a big part of the COVID experience, is to explore what does COVID mean for different people.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And so you do you have an acronym for COVID, or it's
Well, it started in March when, again, there are certain parts of the world that really got beaten up. Cambodia, they didn't have any tourists for 5 months. I have some businesses there that I've been operating, and people didn't have any money. South Africa, they didn't have any. The tourism is so important. The South African
right?
Tourism Association reached out and got me to run a program on isolation and depression. Indonesia, again, so many people don't have other ways to make money. And so we were running some programs with the Indo-Indians in Indonesia. And one of the acronyms we came up with was the acronym for COVID, yet it really was about asking the person what it means to them. So I'd start off with, what C word has come into your existence or has really been magnified during COVID? So let's play with it together. C for what?
Oh, it'd be creative.
Beautiful. So you've been creative in your business, creative in new ways to move from negativity to positivity. For me, it was compassion. It is compassion. How about
Mm,
O?
opportunity.
Opportunity. For me, it's optimism.
Mm,
V?
value.
Value is beautiful. For me, it's vitality. And
Mm,
I?
um, individuality.
Beautiful. Individuality. There's the one that you and I have been playing with is inspiration. For me
True.
specifically, it was intuition. And D?
Mm, determination.
Determination. Beautiful. And for me, it's about discipline. So what's
Mhm.
beautiful is you have your COVID that you've taken, and it's uplifted you. And then the little part of the last part was come up with 19 ways to nurture yourself during this experience. And so some people, they started some new businesses, they pivoted, they looked for ways to contribute. And it was looking at COVID as the mirror, like the beautiful mirrors you have behind you. And there are some people, and you probably are talking to them, that are sitting there and they're thinking, uh, really negative thoughts around COVID, and they're stuck in this thing that they believe it's got to go back the way it used to. Well, that quite frankly is like unscrambling scrambled eggs, right? And so we have looked to take some positivity, and as you're aware too, the words we use, what we focus on, is the type of reality that comes from the experience. So that's that is a little exercise that we would do in groups, whether the group was 10 people or 30 people, and each person would leave with a new reality of what COVID has taught them, and then hopefully leave with some other steps that they could start working on themselves, whether it was their creativity, whether it was their inspiration, their vitality, their discipline, their determination, and stop being waiting for the outside world to become like it used to be, and so that they could go back to the life they used to have.
Right, exactly. Because the fact is that the way that life was before COVID, and we got shut down and all the distractions were removed from everyone, so many people have found so much that makes them happy that they wouldn't have found otherwise, and are developing new habits and spending time as a family together, connecting with their children, going out in nature, for walks in nature, and rediscovering their love of cooking and baking
You're
as
absolutely
well.
you're absolutely right. The people who have really found the gift from this experience have started new hobbies, have explored new opportunities. Those that have been really suffering and are beating themselves up are the ones that will keep banging the door that it's got to go back the way it used to. This isn't right. They're playing the blame game. They're playing the game of excuses and doubting that they can improve and blame. And the big part is the blame game. And I often refer to that as above the line or below the line. Where do you want to live? Do you want to play above the line where you take ownership, you have accountability and responsibility for your life? So it's like you have an oar to your boat. Or do you want to be below the line where you blame everyone, you make excuses why you can't do it, and you doubt that it's actually possible to have an amazing life? And so that's again a
Right.
nice little metaphor that some people can use. And then even if you're coaching people, mentoring people, working with people to be a little more positive, you can use that as a mnemonic, and hopefully they can then own it and then share it, and then they become a messenger of positivity or the light, or they'll stay in the dark. If they want to stay in the dark, I don't mind. It's their choice.
And
That's
that's it exactly. This is all a choice. There's certain things that are not, the whole the virus itself and the dangers associated, and what we're responsible to do as, from a social perspective, for, in terms of the hand sanitizing and masks and etc., and staying, social distancing. But there's so much that choice that we do have, and the whole perspective on how you look at things, it's a huge choice, and there's so much, and you determine, you can determine so much out of your life by your choices. The fact that we have this technology where we can connect with people around the world and have conversations and do business, and coaches can, launch their webinars and do coaching sessions, yoga, exercise, workouts, everything, everything can be online. So there's, and anything you want to learn about is here. You go to YouTube. So there's no excuse. The knowledge is there for you to learn it and to adopt, whatever it is that you're interested in. And actually that was the thing too, when we were, especially when we were really shut down, and people were finding that extra time, although again we still have the same 24 hours in a day. It's just how we were, a lot of it was running around from meeting to meeting, or taking kids to events or things like that. And so just go back to what made you happy as a kid, and what interests you have.
or again, it's beautiful. I love what you've just said. Or delve into the traumas that you had as a kid. And like for me, I was traumatized by my art teacher when I was 8 years old. during COVID, I've gone to some therapy. I started drawing for the first time. I've done some coloring, some ancient indigenous art. And it's funny, when I went to my first class, I froze. And here I am, a 50-something-year-old guy, freezing from a little Chinese teacher I had when I was 7 years old, and I was petrified of art. And during COVID, for me, it was about exploring some of those childhood traumas. And that's what I'm here today to invite, particularly my male brethren who might be traumatized right now, or suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder from the corporate world, or this social conditioning that makes you feel that you're not good enough, or that you're a loser, or you're a failure, and look for ways that you might find that little giggle or laughter through some art, or some music, or some dance, or some ways that you might been told your whole life you can't make a living doing that. Well, guess what? You actually can. And you're a beautiful example of that, who has tapped into art, business, making a difference to uplift people. And so that's where I think it's so beautiful that us today sharing is that, because you're probably meeting some young men right now that are getting into the jewelry business, who are seeing the possibilities by doing their creative expression, because now it is more accepted than, say, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Can you imagine somebody 40 years ago coming home and saying, yes, mom and dad, I'd like to be a jewelry designer, especially as a man? Oh, my goodness. So, gentlemen, I guess that's my message. If there are some guys here that are feeling a little down, a little bit blue from the experience, explore creativity. And maybe you could share one or
Right.
two ways that you've done it, Michele, because you're an amazing creator. What would your guidance be to some people that have put away the pencils, have put away the pens, have put away any artistic, because in their mind it's, you can't make a living doing that?
It's funny that you do say that, because I had my story is that when I was 14, I have a younger sister, and we played with Barbies like crazy. And so when I was 14, it was like, you're too old to play with Barbies. So I started, I got a sewing machine, and I started designing clothes and sewing clothes for the Barbies. And then I proceeded to do a lot of sewing. But then in high school, I also wore a uniform. I didn't want to look the same as everyone else. So I decided to start making jewelry. I loved it. I wanted to go to Ontario College for fashion design. But my parents were like, "Oh, no, no, you're good at math. You should go to be an accountant." So that's what I ended up doing. I left that, because the story was, you're never going to make money doing that. So 20 years I did accounting for derivatives and financial instruments, and then it was really, I have to be thankful to my boss at the bank, who laid me off, because that finally gave me that push to do what I really wanted to do, which is this, designing jewelry, which is something I've always loved to. And now, of course, it's evolving with these interviews and everything, just wanting to empower others to follow their passion, follow their dreams, and do what they really want to do. And that's exactly it.
Right.
The old societal norm, or whatever, was that you can't make money being an artist. But the fact is, now the whole world has changed with the internet, because back then, we didn't have the internet, so it wasn't the same. Now you can make $10 million making silly videos on TikTok. So
Let me ask a weird, wonderful, and wacky question, and that's what I'm also encouraging our listeners today. If you're watching this, listen to some of these questions that Michele and I are saying, and maybe ask yourself too. What age were you when your boss let you go?
oh, that was mid 40s.
All right, I was 37 when I was let go. December 17th, 2000. I had just had my first child.
Oh,
So guys, gals, guess what? You can get smacked in the nose. And fortunately, I had prepared for it for about 8 months. And so when I came home that night, my son's mother pulled out the champagne saying, let's celebrate, because I had been planning to shift into a career of social entrepreneurship. And
Oh, okay.
that's one of the things that I'm inviting any guys right now that are finding, maybe you are finding it difficult to get a job, or maybe you're finding it that you've been laid off or fired and your self-esteem might be taking a bit of a bruising. It is first to work on nurturing and caring for yourself, and then exploring, not the fear, because that's going to be one pathway and it will be a bumpy road if that's what you're going to take. How about the inspiration where you can be of service to others? How about tying in things that you would like to do, love to do? Find ways to be able to monetize a certain part of your life, yet also energize and revitalize what you would truly love to do. And then do what Michele did, meet more people, network with people, and find out some winning strategies that whatever you like and love to do, discover the $1 million business, the $1 billion business behind your hobby business. And
Right.
give yourself some time to practice and to play and to enjoy it. It's funny that you're like being a jeweler. One of my business partners in Bali was a jeweler from Canada, and he had a $17 million business. He set up one of the greatest schools in Bali because he was so creative. He created, check it out if you like, it's the Green School in Bali. It was founded by a jewelry designer, a silver jewelry designer, who was able to sell his business and monetize incredible value because he really understood how to build and scale a business and sell it. And that's, again, something that you may learn if you study the E-Myth. It's not about working in the business. It's about finding ways to work on the business and then potentially sell the business. And that's what I've been doing for the last 20 years, is assisting and working with entrepreneurs around the world who are interested in scaling their business and then potentially selling their business or getting funded and then potentially publicly listing their business. And so when I talk to about 100 entrepreneurs, there's probably only 3 or 4 that is on that journey, because most solopreneurs end up doing what the baker did in the E-Myth, and that's working in the business and therefore having 3 to 4 part-time jobs making less than minimum wage.
Right.
And that, fortunately or unfortunately, is the situation for many solopreneurs.
Yes.
Because they haven't figured that way to work on the business instead of in the business.
Right. Yeah. And from that perspective, this is a good time to do all that learning, because again, everything is there for to learn from the experts. And initially there was so much out there, free content. There still is. There still are some quite a few free conferences and everything like that. And I found myself getting a bit overwhelmed because I was signing up for everything back in April. And then I realized I can't be spending 10 hours, 12 hours a day on this. I don't have time to process it or get recharged or any self-care or anything like that. So yeah.
We've really looked at that idea of, like, because you've got, now that you've got into the social media, you've got your skills with your art, your designer art, and now with the internet and the different types of storefronts. That's where, again, what I tend to look for is who you can partner with. Because if you can partner with somebody, can you imagine you partnering even with a 17-year-old person who absolutely loves Etsy or absolutely is great at Shopify? Then it's not 1 + 1 = 2, it's 1 + 1 = 11. And then if you can get one other person, it's not 3, it's actually 111. And that's the type of leverage that a friend of mine wrote a book on. It's called The Beer Mat Entrepreneur. In fact, if you check out, I just interviewed him. In fact, he has done a beautiful passion project with this year, where he has been working on a biography of one of Britain's top musicians. And he's done a full biography for the guy. And it's an amazing book of going through the Beatles and the different bands that have played in the UK. And it came out from a series of interviews, very much like what we're doing right now. And that inspired a project that goes way beyond what the mind can handle. It really, for me, is a guided message. And that's one of the beautiful things I think that you're doing right now, experimenting with the different interviews, is that where it might guide you, you never know, yet it's positive, it's fun, and it's uplifting.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. The opportunities are there, even though there's so much fear and negativity around the pandemic and with respect to the economy and everything like that. But this is our opportunity to create something new from a lot of systems that that were broken, that we've now been able to see that were broken. And when you look at the long-term care homes in Ontario, that was a system that was broken. And then this has brought it to light. The education system, we know it's archaic, and this has brought it to light. Corporate systems too, where you would always go and do something. You'd be, you come into a new job and you're told you do it like this, and you question why, and they say, oh, because that's the way we always have done it. And so now look at how we were shut down. We were shut down, the whole world and everything. And all of sports shut down in a matter of days. If you had said that would happen like a year ago to anybody, they would have said that's not possible.
Correct. The biggest one was when they shut the Canadian US border. If anyone would have said that was going to be shut, there was no way. When I first heard about that going to happen, I was shocked.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for me, the other thing was when Las Vegas was shut down.
Yes.
Because I mean, really, like for a place, and then to see pictures of Las Vegas with no people, that was crazy. So just taking that perspective and thinking about what we can create instead of, shutting things down so quickly, what can we create when we start spreading love? And like you said, collaboration is something too that is, I think something we're going to see going forward a lot more.
There's a beautiful term that the big tech companies, they often refer to as frenemies. And so on the one platform, they're enemies, but on the other platform, they're collaborating. And again, that's a really nice mindset shift, is that in the past, you might have thought some other artists might be competition, yet today it's figuring out a way to collaborate and to figure out a way that, can we create a bigger platform? Can we have a bigger party? And it might be something to explore 2021 in ways that could be a lot of fun. There's definitely going to be some great learning, because that's the beautiful thing that came into my existence or consciousness in 2020 has been experiments. And I've always been someone who liked to do events and projects. And this year, it's really been encouraging the elderly, encouraging people who aren't tech savvy to go and experiment. And so whether it's experiment with Zoom or experiment with Doodly or experiment with InShot, experiment with videos, really encouraging people to experiment. And cooking's a great one too, right? Because my mom this year, 80 years old, started using YouTube for the first time to cook. Just a year ago, when she saw her grandson, my son, come into her kitchen with his computer, watching it while cooking, my mom almost wanted to throw his computer out the window.
Yeah.
Yet a year later, my mom now has been cooking so creatively because she's being willing to experiment with YouTube.
And I think a lot of people have changed their perspectives on so many things. Another way would probably be the people working out from home, or even actually there was a yoga instructor that I had on this as well, and she said how she wanted to. No, people had always asked her about doing yoga online and doing online
meditation
classes and meditation and mindfulness classes and things like that online as opposed to in person. And she's like, oh, no. And of course she had no choice, and had started to do that. And as a result, she's created all this content that she's been able to create an online course, and she'll have that forever, even when she does go back to in-person classes. But some people who are working out from home are now enjoying that so much more that they're not going to go back to a gym.
Absolutely.
And so, it's and probably before, if you had said to them about working from home, they would have been like, oh no, I don't want to do that. I like
Yeah.
going to the gym.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah.
I used to be the instructor at the YMCA for yoga. Because
Oh,
again, I was one of these people that couldn't touch my toes about a year and a half ago. And then one of my friends, a similar age, had double hip replacement surgery. And it encouraged me or inspired me to go to India to go and take an instructor's course. So I spent a month grunting and moving in positions that I never knew I thought ever thought I could. And when I came back, I volunteered at the Y for about a year. And
oh,
I've just recently done two very nice little chair yoga routines, primarily for elderly, just to move in the chair and to move their joints and to be able to allow movement to be such a key component in their daily regime. Because
okay. That
particularly,
that probably the chair yoga is probably something that's good for everyone as well. With the everybody being on the computer, and so many
correct.
people who have come working from home are on Zoom all day or whatever platform they might be using.
Yes. So
And
these,
some people don't get up and move around.
yeah. And just moving your shoulders, moving your arms, with just a little laughter. And so I've infused that laughter yoga in it and just different ways to have an engaging conversation instead of just feeling you're stuck on the computer. So yeah, there's so many beautiful little infusions or different essences. I think you like those words because I think we both like our oils and our like our aromatherapy and these are
Yeah.
again great ways that can bring so much vitality to one's life. And I'm specifically inviting my male friends to go and experiment with this because it truly can create these beautiful energetic chords of possibility instead of this isolation that many people are going through right now.
Right. And going back to the what you were talking about, creativity, that is also from creativity comes innovation. So getting back to being creative, one thing that a lot of people also found, and even for myself, it was a week ago that I did a meditation and mandalas. A bunch of us got together on Zoom, and I hadn't colored for, I don't, it's been a while. And I remembered how much I really enjoyed it. And I mean, I enjoyed art too, like drawing and painting is something I enjoyed as a teenager, and really haven't done so much either. So getting back to the coloring the mandala, which actually I'm not even finished because I was being very detailed.
Mhm.
And but yeah, exactly. Going back to coloring.
Well, I'm in a little group I have out of Asia has different mandalas for different organs. And so I got a couple of those and I did my first coloring mandala just last week. And then this week we have a dear friend who does the stones. So I went out and bought some acrylic paints and I painted my stones for this Friday. And we're gonna be doing a little bit of indigenous creativity using stones as a way to match or work on the chakras. So there's so many ways that we can get more energy, more creativity, vitality, and a little bit of what we've shared today is through colors, through essential oils, about movement. It comes down to, I believe, the core of what you've been sharing with people, Michele, and that's positivity.
Right. Yeah. And I think that that is going to be the key for whatever we create going forward in the world. We need to bring more love into business and more of these different aspects, as opposed to the rigid 9 to 5 and whatever that we had in the past.
Yes, absolutely. And it's just for those of our friends who might be a little bit of suffering right now, I just a tip or two might be attempt to get a little structure in your life because I think that's one of the things that I noticed in my surveying of people. The people who've been really finding it difficult is they used to have the structure that gave
Right.
them the discipline. And so if you could get a little discipline or a little bit of structure and then play with it. And so a guy who very famous in Canada, Jordan Peterson, in suggests to men, make your bed. do that the first thing, because then it's like you can check something off because you have a success of the day already. And it's just allow yourself to have these little successes. I think
Right.
with you and I, we might do our yoga, or we might do our breathing, or we might do our meditation, or we might do our prayers. That's a win already. And that's what many of the folks that are in the void or in the pit is that theirs is just being miserable, being negative, being blaming, and there is no joy in Mudville. And so if we can encourage them to explore. Now what's beautiful is go and do some creativity from that place, because you'll come up with a really dark picture maybe, and then you might go and do a light picture so you can have contrast, because that's something that can also be a great lesson here, is that we can unveil the polarity. And this comes from the yin and the yang, which you're very aware of, because it's just not all positivity. There can be benefits to negativity. It's what we don't want.
Right.
And so that's something that hopefully whoever's might be struggling a little bit is to figure out and explore ways that you can feel connected, you can feel creative, you can feel calm. And then the last little one is kind. And in applying kindness is one of the great, great, great items that has come out of COVID from my personal experience. And it's just little random acts of kindness, and how the karma has come around from that has been
Yeah.
really very uplifting.
Right. Yes. We've seen that from so many perspectives, where people are getting groceries for seniors or others who can't get out, and in condo buildings where they are having lists of, who needs what, and going around to, the people who can go and get things for them. And also on, and in networking groups and everything that I like, the Fem City group that I lead, we just getting together as a community, there's been so much kindness shared,
Beautiful.
and people getting to get, doing business together and collaborating and things like that. So there's so
Fantastic.
much good that has come out of this. Again, it's also something that we as entrepreneurs need to be, we really need to be pivoting all the time,
That's
and
it. Like,
evolving all the time.
absolutely. Absolutely. The ones that think that everyone wants to just buy all your last year's stuff, guess what? They're probably moved on to another realm. So yes, flexibility, versatility, and the urge to continually improve. In Japan, the word is kaizen, or constant,
Right.
never-ending improvement. It's kanai, which Tony Robbins likes to talk about, and it is about this. Oh, my favorite one out of Malaysia is, many people have been trained practice makes perfect. Yet in Malaysia, at the first entrepreneur school for children that I'm an advisor to, it's practice makes progress. And so a lot
And
of what
that's it.
these experiments have been about, practice makes progress. So folks, if you're watching today, listening today, allow yourself to go practice and make the progress. 1% a week, and you'll have a totally new life in 6 months.
Exactly. Baby steps, as long as you keep moving forward, and not staying stagnant, because yeah. And that's all it takes, is baby steps. Just like it takes only one person to change the world. It's all a snowball effect.
I play with a little different rhythm, which is beautiful. I love your baby steps analogy, and it's beautiful. For me, it's quite often the 3 steps forward, 2 steps back.
Oh, okay.
It's that salsa rhythm, because I find in my entrepreneur journey, it's often you have a little bit of a flow, and then whoops, they're going to come back.
True.
And so there's a little bit of a dance, and so I use the metaphor of dancing in some of the work that I like to do, and also went to Colombia to try to learn salsa. That was quite an experience.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not that easy.
Well, for some people who've got a natural rhythm, it's amazing to watch, and many women do.
Yeah.
Us guys sometimes have a little bit of a hiccup or a challenge with it. Yet again, we can make some progress.
Right. Right. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dave, for giving me
Michelle,
your time.
thank you so much, and wishing you, your family, all of your followers and friends an absolutely brilliant festive season. And thanks so much for allowing me to share today.
Oh, thank you. And same to you.